and welcome to Chapter 5, Learning Objective 1. Here in this chapter, what we're going to talk about is elasticities. Basically, elasticity measures either buyer's or seller's response to changes in price. Okay, there's a bit of math that we're going to use. We're going to talk about point elasticities first, and then we'll talk about the arc or midpoint method. And that's the method actually we'll use in the course, is this arc method. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you. Okay, oh, gotta set it up in the slideshow view. Okay. All right, so here we are talking about elasticities, and as you can see, there are a lot of student learning outcomes which have to do with this particular chapter. I think there's like 5 or 6 objectives. So by the time we're done with this, you should be in really good shape, I hope. Okay, so I like to start with a scenario, and the scenario is this. After you graduate, you decide that you're going to start designing websites for a local business, and you're charging $200, so that's going to be your price, right? And your quantity is going to be 12 websites. But times are changing and things are changing, and so your costs are rising and your opportunity cost, and so you're thinking about changing your price. So now I'm going to call the 200 price 1. I'm going to call the 250 price 2, and you're thinking about changing your price. And the question becomes is, should you? Well, the right answer is we need to know what the elasticity or responsiveness to buyers of websites is in terms of changing prices. So when looking at this, we know that if you're going to raise your price, we go back to that law of demand, and we know that as the price increases, the quantity demanded decreases, all else held constant, or ceteris paribus. But the question we're interested in here is how much? And that's really what elasticity looks at. We know that the quantity is going to go down. But if the price and we increase it and the quantity goes down by a bunch, then that's probably not a good idea for our website to increase that price. If we increase the price and the quantity just falls a little bit, then that might be a really good idea to increase the price. If we increase the price and the quantity demanded falls proportionately to that increase in price, then why bother, right? Okay. So we're looking first at elasticity of demand, and the elasticity of demand measures how sensitive buyers are to changes in price, okay? So this is our formula, and what we're essentially going to do is look at what is the percent change in the quantity demanded, okay? Divided by the percent change in price. And we're going to get an answer here. Now, and I'm going to show you on the next slide how we interpret these particular answers and how we work a point elasticity formula, which is in this form right here already given to you as percentages. So let's talk first of all about elastic demand. So elastic demand says if the price increases, the quantity demanded decreases, and when it decreases by a bunch. Remember that when I use arrows in your course, it also means if the price decreases, the quantity is going to increase a lot. So if we're doing this mathematically, then what we will see is that in this instance, we will say that this is elastic, meaning buyers are very responsive to changes in price. And I'll just put delta change in price. When we calculate using this point formula, we're going to end up with an elasticity that's greater than 1. What essentially that means is given a, whatever we end up with as a number here, I'll just use 1, given a 1% change in price, there will be a, and I'll just put answer, change in the quantity demanded, and you have to say ceteris paribus, all else held constant, or other things equal. Okay, so that is elastic demand, meaning buyers are very responsive to changes in price. And if it's greater than 1, it will be elastic. Inelastic demand is where if we increase the price, the quantity demanded is going to go down. We know that from the law of demand, but just by a little bit. Okay? We call this inelastic demand. And how do you keep them straight? I like to look at this portion right here, and then I would say that buyers are insensitive to price changes. When we calculate this, we'll get an elasticity of demand, which is less than 1. So we would say given a 1% change in price, there will be a, put your answer here, percent change in the quantity demanded, ceteris paribus, holding all else constant. Okay, now, is it a good idea to change your website? So going back to that example I just shared with you. So your P1 is 200, your P2 is 250. You decide to increase the price to 250, and let's say that half of your market falls out. Okay, so what will happen here is we have an increase in the price, but we've lost half of our market share. One thing we want to look at is what is your total revenue, okay? So originally, and basically total revenue, or TR, is equal to price times quantity. So your original total revenue was 200 times 12. Multiply those together, and our total revenue here is going to be $2,400. Now we've raised our price to $250. We've lost 6 customers, and so our new total revenue, let's see what that's going to be. How about 250 times 6 is going to be $1,500. If you're designing websites and this is your business, was it a good idea or a bad idea to increase that price? And it was a bad idea here. Why? Because your total revenue decreased substantially. In this case, the price elasticity of demand is greater than 1. So buyers are very sensitive to changes in price. And our total revenue in an elastic demand situation, our total revenue will decrease. All right, so let's try it if it's inelastic. Again, our total revenue at our beginning point was 200 times 12. So that's 2,400. Now, when we raised our price to 250, we only lost 2 customers. So was that a good idea? 250 times 10 is 2,500. That was a good idea because we have a higher total revenue. Yes, we lost some customers, but we didn't lose that many. So here I would say that the elasticity of demand is less than 1, or buyers in the website market are inelastic. And when we're dealing with an inelastic product or a service, and we increase the price, then total revenue is going to go up. Okay? Now, price elasticity of demand has to be, we have to drop this by some weird little point. But basically what would happen is 200 times 12 is 2,400. And 2,500 times would be 2,400. Let me see what I can come up with exactly. Let's see, 2,400 250. Okay, we end up with 9.6 customers. I know that's goofy, but in this case, what we would say is we are unitarily elastic. And what that means is the increase in price kind of had an exact quantity demanded effect. And because of that, total revenue remains unchanged. So the elasticity of this particular one, the unit elasticity is 1. Doesn't happen a lot in real life. Okay, I just want to add we increase the price here. And just to make sure you understand, remember the opposite is always true when I draw arrows. So if we were to decrease the price, then the total revenue would increase in an elastic demand situation. If we were to decrease the price, then total revenue would decrease in an elastic situation. And the last one, total revenue would remain the same because we would have exactly the opposite effect. Okay, so now you can see why this becomes important to businesses. Okay, so let's practice a point elasticity. And basically what we're going to do is take the percent change in the quantity demanded and divide it by the percent change in price. So here's an example problem. If the price decreases by 25% and the quantity increases by 50%, what is the elasticity of demand of this product? Now, because they're giving it to me in percentages, I can just go ahead and use this point formula. And I can say, okay, price decreases 25%. Okay, so elasticity of demand. And the quantity increases 50%. So let me take a moment and talk about this negative and positive. Elasticity of demand is always going to be negative. We know that as economists because this is actually proving the law of demand. Because as the price increases, the quantity demanded decreases either a little, a lot, or a one-to-one change. But it's always going to go in the opposite direction. So we already know it's negative. So many times in economics, what we do is we drop that negative sign. So don't use the negative sign for elasticity of demand. If you like, we're going to take the absolute value. Okay, so we have, oh, you know what? I just flipped these. Flipped it. I want to read carefully, right? I should practice what I preach. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay, so I get all excited about writing and then I forget. Okay, so percent change in the quantity demanded is 50%, right? And percent change in price is 25%, taking the absolute value. So we have 50% divided by 25%, which equals 2. Now, based upon that, we want to take this 2 and match it up to our interpretations. So because 2 is greater than 1, we know this is elastic. Whatever this product or this service is, right? It's elastic. And we can say that given a 1% change in price, there will be and I'm just going to insert my answer here, 2% change in the quantity demanded holding all else constant, or ceteris paribus. Now that really gives us some good information about knowing should we change our price or not. So that's kind of how we use this in real life business situations. Okay, that's the end of this particular objective. In the next objective, we're going to talk about why we cannot use a mathematical percent change formula in elasticity of demand. How we have to take the elasticity across an arc, or what we call the midpoint method in your text. It's the same thing, arc midpoint method. So I look forward to seeing you in chapter 2. I'm sorry, not chapter 2, objective 2. Thank you. Have a good day.